Welcome back, everybody. Sky Marshal in the Eagle's Nest, bringing you Turn 3 summary of Operation Failsafe. So let's start in turn order and give you the brief summaries of what's been going on. Well, the Warsaw Pact, in its infinite wisdom, has been steadily and surely developing its arsenal on the ground and in the air. And we have been slowly putting in reinforcements in the form of another attack helo into Yugoslavia to help defend the southern forces against the back supporters of NATO in the northern area of Yugoslavia. But we did a big land movement, moving a lot of main battle tanks, as well as mechanized divisions, as well as even some nuclear arsenal throughout Central, Southern, and Northern Eastern Europe. And I think we've got NATO a little spooked, I might have you. So that is not the big events, but the big events is NATO, especially down here in the south, has basically decided to reinforce a lot of areas in Europe. Now, you can see this is fairly updated here, but they've really cared about reinforcing Western Europe and nothing about Greece or NATO. Basically has been left to their own devices. I mean, my goodness, Egypt could walk in and take Turkey right now. So I'm sure these NATO partners are not happy with NATO currently. All they seem to be concerned about is their own skins in Western Europe. But they have nothing to worry about because Warsaw Pact is a very peaceful and loving nation. So in the north here, we'll just go around to the other part of the table where we can see a little bit more. Major events, we have the Abraham Lincoln moving into the North Sea there, just off the coast of Denmark. And it has deployed a lot of forces, and actually some of the air superiority fighters have been put on there, replaced, and they've moved a lot of their air force inland to help protect certain areas in Central Europe right now. We got diesel-electric submarines, 2 French Dauphine class, helping protect the Abraham Lincoln and her battle group. We have the nuclear attack submarine, the Sovereign, the British Sovereign, doing operations in Sea Zone A6, as well as we can just see a general buildup of mechanized forces. I don't think we've ever seen so many German forces in the entire European theater since, well, World War II. And you can see all those German forces being reinforced by NATO supply lines, and of course the French, as always, leading up the rear. Big events though in Europe by the Russians. Well, Sweden was attacked by Russian aggression, and you can see right up here the entire mechanized army of northern Sweden has been wiped out by superior Russian forces, and their navy as well has been wiped out by the beautiful attack naval commandery with the Slava cruiser and the admiral speared off, destroying every ship in the Baltic Sea, therefore giving the Soviets naval supremacy in the region. And on top of that, their air force down here, as well as their forces up in Murmansk, are probably ready for the next deployment against Sweden aggression. And I can't say I blame the Russians. Sweden has been waving their fist very violently in certain areas towards this peaceful country of the Soviet Union. So they've had to take matters into their own hands, and, well, I guess Sweden will start to learn the Russian language because NATO is going to do nothing about it. Deployments and builds, obviously, the Soviet Union is slowly building up their forces. They have recently launched the Admiral Levichenko and the Etvildi, a new frigate and destroyer in the Black Sea to join their other forces here, as well as building a few more fighters and air support to really bolster the Soviet Global Command. So we are excited to see that as Warsaw Pact, to know that, you know, if NATO gets aggressive, we will be able to defend our sovereignty to the last. Over here in the Pacific, or not the Pacific, the Atlantic, we have Ozark Outposts forces he has moved and redeployed his carrier battle group off the eastern seaboard into the Latin American area. The Carl Vinson and her task force moved on down here. USS Leyte Gulf cruiser launched a cruise missile into the heated Latin America battle zone, and the PRF is still battling away. And we salute them. Unfortunately, not much is known about this area because we've not got our shipment from Air Canada yet, or not Air Canada, Canada Post. No, they're both bad. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Each one is the same. But nonetheless, we can see a lot of American firepower and aggression picking on a lot of these poor Latin American countries that are trying to gain freedom. The Americans did move up the USS Iwo Jima and the Hailer, but only to be joined by the brand new Jack Williams frigate, an Oliver Perry class frigate in that area, as well as they've reinforced and bought airborne and Marines. We can only assume their eye is not worried about Europe right now, but is worried about Latin America. So interesting, very, very common. The U.S. only cares about themselves. Now, of course, we have this beautiful Air Force down here. We should probably move. It was on the Carl Vinson, and I have just been placing them sporadically, obviously. So they're there with that battle group. So further over here in Pakistan and India, well, Pakistan got the upper hand against Indian forces after India did a counterattack and another nuclear device was deployed on the border, and 3 T-72 Indian main battle tanks were wiped out in that attack. So unfortunately, the Indian forces are licking their wounds right now. So this could be a very long war against Pakistan and India. We'll keep you posted. The USS Enterprise is in the area along with her battle group, the USS Yorktown and Destroyer Nicholson, with their support vessels, keeping an eye on the situation. However, we do have Soviet boats in the area. We have a Nakula class nuclear attack submarine, as well as the Admiral Kharkov destroyer moving into the area to make sure the American fleet is kept in check. USS Tripoli is staying put in Diego Garcia. Now, the naval developments here are interesting. We have the Indian surface fleet, as well as the Murmansk, built by the Soviet Global Command, started construction down there. Obviously, it's a one-off shipment that they brought down there to add to the Indian fleet. And the Admiral Tirpitz was deployed out of the Pacific, switched commands over on into the Indian Ocean under Soviet Global Command. So the Indian Navy is almost rivaling the American Navy. Almost. And then over here we have deployments, and we'll go with the Soviet Far East. Soviet Far East still has quite a bit of forces in Novosibirsk, obviously just defensive measures. I don't blame them. Those Mongolians down there can be, well, wily people. But in Vladivostok here, we've seen major ship deployments out of the port of Vladivostok down into P-32, where we have an Akula-class nuclear attack submarine supported by 2 Kilo-class submarines doing naval operations in the middle of the Pacific. That has got the American AWAC forces up in arms, moving, trying to track down these forces. Further south over here, we have another Akula-class nuclear attack submarine in P-38, not very far from the USS Guam, who is in Guam right now. Some forces were redeployed from Alaska down here last turn, and obviously they're doing some exercises to help determine whether this Soviet expeditionary force heading south off the coast of the Philippines is going to pose a threat. Obviously, I have been talking to the Eastern Commissioner in the Soviet Union, and these forces are going to Antarctica for deployment of sorts. Not quite sure what they are doing, but obviously it's a peaceful, probably experimental thing. But it's also supported by 2 Kilo class diesel electric attack submarines. And over here, we have a redeployment of attack kilos and Soviet bombers into the Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam area, South Vietnam. Now, this has obviously got the Chinese up in arms. The Chinese have reinforced and redeployed their Eastern Air Force from eastern Jiang down to Guangxi, I believe, down here. And now they have 5 early gen Air Force squadrons, along with various other deployment forces, to help counter any attacks that might be seen against their sovereignty. Chinese naval operations, they're moving a lot of their ships around. They got the missile torpedo boat, the Qing, back into port, and the Chang, and the Ping, and the Wang, and the Chong, and the Pong. They're all having lots of fun over there. Creative with their names, no doubt. Chinese naval activity has gone a little bit further out off the coast of Japan with one of their Changqing diesel attack Romeo-class submarines doing operations out there. Aside from that, not too much else is happening. Aside from a few icebergs floating down from Alaska, we have USS Miami on patrol just off the coast of the western seaboard, as well as Dwight D. Eisenhower and Thorne being supported with taking the USS Texas out of mothballs, and the brand new George Philip and Robert G. Bradley frigates have been deployed with their forces to see if any of these Soviet ships may cause a problem for them. But of course, the American fleet is being watched by Soviet surveillance spy planes. But that's it, guys. Very peaceful place in the world right now, besides India. India and Pakistan just can't get their crap together. But I have lots of stuff being painted currently right now on the board. Lots of things to still do. But hopefully you guys are enjoying this summary here and this overview of this game. Really enjoying just moving around the pieces, playing with the pieces, learning the game hands-on. And once again, my allies, comrades, my opponents all have been gracious, good hosts. And we're going to see what happens here next turn, and what Warsaw Pact plans to do for turn 4. So, you know what? You guys all stay classy, and Sky Marshal will see you for the next video.